well, so we've got access to it later. But first and foremost, really, thank you all for joining today. I'm personally very excited. A lot of work has gone into rolling up this first cloud play for the team, and really, really anxious to get it launched with you guys, get some training going, and hopefully see some additional sales and opportunities come in. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got a few different items I'm going to want to share through the course of this conversation. So I'm just going to share my whole screen here. Let me get that pulled up. All right. Everybody see that? I go with, looks like, yeah. Let me know if for any reason you're not seeing my screen here. But yeah, today we're here to talk a little bit about our remote workforce enablement solution, Digital Workplaces by Intervision. So today we've got a pretty full agenda, some topics we're going to roll through with the team here today. First and foremost, we're going to tackle the sales presentation. So this is the client-facing, public-facing presentation that several members of the team on the cloud side have put together for your access that you'll be able to go out to the market and share with your prospects and clients. We're going to talk a little bit about the target client profile here at the end. And we're going to do a quick review and summary of the available sales assets that have been put together for this cloud play. And then, of course, I'd like to try to move through things quickly but efficiently to make sure that we have time for Q&A from this team as well. So just as a summary, I went back and looked at the presentation that John and I had put together for SKO 2020 that talked about cloud plays and sort of what the objectives and goals of cloud plays were. And we had 3 big bullet points, and I personally feel pretty good about where we landed with our first cloud play here. Those goals were to develop and optimize cloud plays sort of as the tip of the spear for sales. So provide packaging, messaging, a go-to-market strategy for the sales team that would allow you to start conversations around Intervision's unique capabilities in cloud. The next bit was to make sure there was alignment across the pre-sales engineering and delivery team to this approach. And I know a tremendous amount of work has been done there as well, but I'd also add that there's been a lot of alignment across the marketing team in terms of the messaging and better understanding what makes us unique in the space based on how we deliver this solution to our clients. And then finally, we wanted to optimize the process with tools and reusable documentation. And we'll cover a little bit more of that later. But there's been a lot of work that's been done on the pre-sales and delivery side to really ensure that there's a very clear-cut process for how we message and sell and deliver the solution. So there's an alignment across the teams where there needs to be. So I feel pretty good about that. One thing I thought I'd do is a little bit of showing you guys how the sausage was made. There's been, like I said, a lot of work that's gone into developing these cloud plays for the team. And what you're looking at here is really the master list of all the various documents, processes, deliverables that we put together as part of this play. I know on the surface it may seem like, well, you're just packaging and offering. How hard can it be? But really, when you think across the delivery team, the marketing team, the sales messaging, the pre-sales engineers, there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done. And one of the things that we did with this approach that I think was helpful is we started with the end goal in mind. We put together a public press release that really defined what we wanted to deliver with this solution, who we were targeting, and ultimately what the value was we wanted to drive for our clients through the solution. And everything that came out of this cloud play was a result of an alignment on that. And that document was put together collectively by folks like John. It was vetted by Jamie. Alicia helped as well to really ensure that we were all aligned on what we were trying to accomplish. And then from there, as you can see, there were several documents, artifacts put together to make sure that we were fulfilling what we said we were going to do in that press release. So lots of work on the marketing side, lots of work on the sales and enablement side, and then a lot of work on the delivery side as well. So one of the things I hope that after going through this process, seeing what we put together, you'll feel confident that not only is the messaging tighter than it was before, but our ability to deliver on it has also been tightened up as well, because there's a consistency across the teams in terms of the alignment of what we're trying to accomplish with this cloud play. John, Kevin, if any folks have anything to add at any point, please just let me know. But I wanted to take a moment to just revisit what the original goals were to make sure we were holding ourselves accountable to the materials that we put together for this team. So one of the things that we're going to do is walk through the client presentation, and we're going to try a slightly different format that was actually recommended by Mike Mosier from his time at Intel. And it's the 30-3-30 format, where what would you tell a client or prospect if you had a full 30 minutes to talk to them about this solution? What would you talk to them about if you only had 30 seconds? And what would you share with them if you had 3 minutes? So sort of condensing things down to really what are the most critical components we want to message to our clients and prospects as we're sharing this solution. So the first one I'm going to open up with is the long form 30-minute conversation. And I may go hopefully just around 30 minutes, but maybe a little bit longer, because there's some additional details and context, obviously, I want to share with this team that wouldn't be relevant when you were giving the presentation to a client. So one of the things we're trying to do with all our presentations for the sales team now is open up with a little bit of a story, some industry insight that'll hopefully set the stage for the conversation that we're going to have with the solution. So the way we work and study has changed, right? We've all felt the impact of that. The globalization of the economy has driven folks to want to be able to work from anywhere and on any device at any time. Obviously, COVID-19 had a huge impact on demands for remote workers, and sort of, that impact has going to be felt for the long term. You can see that quote over there on the right from Gartner, that 74% of companies plan to continue that shift to remote work even after that initial sort of burst required by COVID-19. And through all that, businesses need to maintain their security and continuity as their employees, want to work from home. So the big takeaway here is that things have changed, and they've changed for the long term. With that, there's additional new pressures or different pressures that get put on IT, right? When you think about trying to support that remote workforce. You've got the business requirement. You may need to enable hundreds or thousands of users, or even tens of thousands of users, to have access to their key applications and data to perform the work they need to get done. And so on the IT side, it's introducing new challenges related to the complexity and expense of managing what we're calling the traditional VDI solutions, virtual desktop infrastructure. There's new security risks being introduced from the use of personal devices. And, it's not like staff is growing, right? And if anything, in many cases, staff is being decreased based on that pressure from COVID-19. And one of the things we tried to pull in here, and this was a suggestion from Jamie, which I thought was a great bit of input, is this quote from Mark Grimsey from our COVID-19 CIO panel. I hope all of you were able to attend that. If not, there is a recording available. But he said that before all this happened, he's a vice president of IT at Robert Half. He had about 400 offices he needed to be worried about. Pretty big enterprise. A lot of offices that he needed to be concerned with. And after this remote push to remote work, it's like he's trying to manage 18,000 offices, right? So that kind of, I think, helps make it real a little bit. And one of the things I like about this is our own insight that we pulled from a webinar that we ran internally, right, with CIOs that we work with across the organization. So just adding a little bit of extra meat on the bone there from a real world perspective from a VP of IT that we work with. So that cues it right up for the solution itself. So we're calling this Digital Workplaces by Intervision. And the reason why is that AWS is going to be shifting the title of the subset of solutions designed for end user computing. It was formerly called end user computing, they're changing that to digital workplaces. And so we want to be ahead of the curve there and adopt that branding. So that's the reason why you're seeing that change of the title. It's no longer end user computing. It's now digital workplaces. And so this slide is really designed to be the overview of the solution. As you can see, it talks about it's an integrated approach for both Amazon Digital Workspaces and Amazon AppStream 2.0 that's designed to simplify delivery, improve security, accelerate deployment, and reduce costs. Part of this initiative with the Cloud Play, though, was to dig a little bit deeper. And what I mean when I say that is there are other premier providers out there, right? So in the notes of the slides, we've tried to provide additional context as to why a client might want to work with Intervision, even over another premier provider. And a lot of that just really boils down to the breadth and depth of our experience in the traditional data center, right? We have access to experience with technology and traditional data center solutions that most, if not all, premier AWS partners do not have. So what's that mean for the client? It's our decades of a data center experience allows us to better set up and secure access to applications running in client data centers using AppStream 2.0. We have experience with traditional on-prem VDI that allows us to effectively migrate clients into workspaces. So we understand traditional VDI, which better enables us to modernize that approach. We ensure our data center technologies are aligned to support digital workspaces. So all the technology partnerships we have with Palo Alto, Cisco, Juniper, and so on, we can complete. It allows us to more rapidly deploy AppStream and Workspaces solutions and integrate with those technologies. We have a deep experience in true hybrid. 90% of our clients are going to continue to be in that hybrid environment, and our experience there really allows us to deliver for them. And, you know, in terms of the raw facts of our competencies, we're one of the few premier partners with the end user compute competency, which is going to be released here in just probably a few weeks. We will have that competency. We don't today, but we will. And we also have the migration competency. So, you know, we have deep and robust experience on the cloud side with AWS, and we have deep and robust experience on the traditional data center side. But this is the slide that's really designed to give that overview of what the solution is. It's the integrated approach for remote user enablement. You can see these benefits down here that the client receives. And what we've done is provide the overview here in this slide. And then the follow-on slide really is designed to provide more context. So what do we mean when we say it simplifies remote work? It means you can access resources from anywhere and on any device without the complexity of managing individual VDI instances or hardware. That's a big thing, right? So even if your client has VDI solutions in place, there's a good chance we can help save them on cost and the complexity of managing that hardware, all the patching associated with that through this solution. When we say accelerates deployment, we mean we can quickly and efficiently provision persistent desktops or individual applications for classroom and lab settings. We have a unique use case that we'll talk a little bit more for the education space we'll touch on. Deliver scale without additional hardware purchases or management requirements, again, against traditional VDI, and reduce risk because, you know, in most cases, no sensitive data is stored anywhere on the end user device, and the data is encrypted at both rest and in transit. And in each of these slides, guys, I've tried to build out, with the help of many others on the team, more detail on the benefits. So specifically, detail on the benefits for AppStream and detail on the benefits for digital workspaces. So you can get into more detail if there's, you know, if the client's more concerned about security, you've got more context you can dive into here. So try to be a little bit more in depth with the notes than we have in even AMS, for example, the recent launch there. I know that you know, you may not want to just read all this off, but in some cases, having that additional context might help you tighten up your presentation and what you speak to. So the next bit on this presentation is an example implementation. And, you know, we're not expecting you to talk through each and every step of this process, This is an example implementation of AppStream. This is actually a client implementation. But what we thought this slide would help do is illustrate that, yes, we have done this before, and there's unique value in our approach that we want to highlight. This process is proven, standardized, and automated, right? So we've implemented AppStream architecture for many clients, which allows us to standardize the process. And we also use automation, right, which rapidly scales up the efficiency. Infrastructure as code to deploy the environment. It's robust and high performing, and it's deployed quickly with a test-driven approach. So hopefully this slide, for clients who want to dig in a little bit more and understand what our process is for implementing these solutions are, you'll have a slide here that helps you back that up and actually share an example implementation with the client. There's some specific use cases that have sort of floated up to the top that we wanted to highlight here, and this may help trigger a conversation with the client. I provided a lot of example use cases in the appendix for this deck as well that dives into multiple different ways that AppStream and WorkSpaces might be implemented for a client. But these were the ones that we've seen most persistently in our conversations. There's a very specific one in education that I know has been rising to the top because in the education space, there's a demand for labs, right? And some of those applications that are required for the labs, such as AutoCAD, are very resource heavy and difficult to integrate into a traditional VDI type solution. With AppStream, you can stream directly that single application. So this would be applicable really for any client that has a intensive application that they need to get out to their remote workforce without the additional complexity of all the remote desktop requirements. And that really, I know Paul and Kevin and others out in the field have seen that there's just dramatic opportunities for cost savings and efficiency by deploying AppStream in those instances as opposed to a traditional VDI solution. But you can also see, across industries, we've got many examples to call out here. Another one that I thought was pretty interesting is for software vendors. If they haven't yet really created a SaaS-style solution for their application, you can utilize AppStream to sort of SaaSify an application because you're delivering it through, a browser essentially to the end user. So, it allows to quickly scale out the use of that application in a way that wouldn't be possible without that solution. So there's some other use cases here that you can read up on, and again, there's additional context to the appendix, but I thought this slide might be beneficial to help stimulate conversations with your clients as you're sharing the solution with them on ways that it may be applied into their specific use cases. So the next couple of slides here are really designed to illustrate success stories. And I've really done my best to summarize the challenge, the solution, and the outcome. And in this digital workplaces case study that we have, we've got a great client quote from Brian at MSJC that I thought really highlighted the value we drove there. So the challenge was obviously, you guys are probably familiar with this case study at this point, but they needed to quickly support remote workforce in response to COVID-19. We deployed AppStream 2.0 along with training and a lot of additional technologies that's outlined here in the solution notes. And the real outcome is within 2 days, the faculty had access to their key applications. So speed is a big part of this, right? The ability to deliver this very, very efficiently and very quickly is a big part that we highlight here in this use case. The next one here is with TaskUs. Similar story. Again, speed was a big part of it, but this is for AWS Workspaces. So this is more of the desktop style solution that we implemented for TaskUs to enable them. And again, the notes, there's quite a bit of detail here that you can speak to about the way we supported the client there. But really just trying to illustrate that we've done this before, we have happy customers, and we can deliver this solution for your prospect or client. So the last bit here in this presentation is why a client would work with InterVision specifically for this solution as opposed to another premier provider or another, traditional VAR out there. And so we've done our best to kind of summarize that. We have a broader range of expertise as an AWS premier partner with 20 plus years of data center experiences. So there aren't many providers out there that are premier that have that deep legacy that we do with the traditional data center that InterVision has. We have a deeper bench of certified engineers with hundreds of thousands of delivery hours in cloud, networking, and security. We have a more refined delivery process that follows a prescriptive approach that I sort of detailed earlier in the deck. We have a faster quick start standard. So this is a big one. So we all know about the promo for 50 hours or less, but the idea here is that with or without that promo, we should have some confidence that we can implement that POC deployment in most cases under 50 hours. So we're really efficient at delivering the solution. And the automation piece, right? We have automation workflows that are designed to accelerate and optimize the implementation. There's again, more notes here that help build some of that out a little bit more, that really kind of get down to the nitty-gritty on some of the details there. But hopefully you can see that we're not just trying to position this against any old other provider. We're really going after even the top tier providers that are out there that can deliver this solution. Why would a client want to work with us for this solution as opposed to, again, even another premier AWS partner? As soon as the end user competency, we're approved for that, which again should be in the next few weeks. As soon as that's added, I'll get the updated badge. This badge comes directly from AWS. Get that updated and sent out to this team in the deck here so that it reflects that, because that's a big one. Obviously, that competency is directly tied to these solutions. And then finally, while the promo is still relevant, I have a slide in here that allows you to speak directly to that promo. So that's the 30-minute conversation. If you had 30 minutes to talk to your client about the solution, assuming they would have questions, right? You'd be able to dive into some other pieces. The next bit here is that, if you had 3 minutes, what would be the big pieces that you'd want to talk about? Obviously, you're going to want to introduce the solution and tie back again to those benefits, the unique value proposition that InterVision has, the fact that it's an integrated approach to really the desktop infrastructure and application delivery that's designed to simplify delivery, improve security, accelerate deployment, and reduce costs. I would dive a little bit deeper into the benefits just to make sure that it's clear to the client, right? And talk about what the benefits are that I covered earlier. And then finally, I think there's a lot of value here in really illustrating why a client would want to work with us as opposed to another provider. So that's if you had 3 minutes. And then finally, of course, if you only had 30 seconds to introduce the solution, this slide here is really designed to do that, right? To really summarize the value of the service and what it is and describe it at the same time. This format should look fairly familiar to those of you who are out there talking about AMS today. I think it's a good way of sort of summarizing the solution and what it delivers for clients. So again, in the appendix, I provided some additional example workspaces, use cases, and AppStream 2.0 use cases, along with an example implementation for workspaces. So if you really have a client that's focused on that remote desktop solution with workspaces, you can dive into this example implementation. The other example implementation was focused on AppStream, and that's really because we're seeing more AppStream right now conversations in the market than we are the workspaces conversations. But I wanted to supply you with that example implementation as well. So that covers it on the actual presentation deck. But I did want to talk a little bit more about who the target buyer and clients are for this solution. So you can see, we try to get a little bit more into the detail around who exactly we would be targeting with this solution. Right in our sweet spot as far as size of the organization, but companies that need to support that remote, mobile, or contract style employee with bring your own device initiatives, or they're in software development. Universities and colleges with classroom or lab settings. One of the applications I talked about earlier was enabling labs. Companies with heavy M&A activity. John, you spoke a little bit to that use case for M&A, mergers and acquisitions with this solution. Can you just touch on that a little bit for the team?
Yeah, sure, Chris. It's if you've got a company that's pulling together, different companies, and they've got servers, they've got applications running in, data center of a company they've taken over. This is a way for them to gain access in a consistent way to those applications. They could essentially, access them via a browser and then bring them up via AppStream. So kind of a consistent way for a company to gain control and provide access to legacy applications from a company that they may, have taken over or, be bringing in. So I think that was the one we were talking about, right, Chris?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you, John. I just wanted to make sure I had that chance to summarize that. So organizations, as with many of our services, organizations with stretched IT staff that are sort of struggling to keep up and have a preference to moving towards the cloud. This is a great solution for organizations that are trying to go a little bit more cloud first and have that immediate need, obviously. One of the other ones that I think is interesting is companies that already have a virtual desktop infrastructure solution, but maybe they're struggling a little bit with cost or the management of the complexity of that solution. There really is a lot of additional benefit that this AWS packaging can deliver for them, to reduce costs, simplify things for the delivery of remote desktops and applications to their end users. The other bit here is just a note for organizations that already have the expertise to implement really sophisticated VPN and VDI solutions or cloud migrations. If they're super sophisticated, cloud first already, this may not be a solution for them, but it's certainly worth digging to understand how they're handling their remote desktop or their remote user needs today, and sort of get a sense for, is it efficient? Is it as efficient or optimized as they'd like it to be? So going back to the agenda, we talked a little bit about the target buyer for this, went through the presentation in that 3330 format. I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about some of the resources that are available for the team today. I will send out this deck immediately following the conversation that we have today, so you have access to these. These are all links that you can just click on. But I'm going to switch over to Chrome here so we can look at some of these resources. So the first one here is the sales playbook. Ron does a fantastic job sort of summarizing the sales pieces of our solutions, and this is no exception. So for the digital workplaces by Intervision, you have access to the presentation deck right here via the sales intranet, as well as some additional messaging and resources around the client pain points, drivers, descriptions of the offerings in detail. This has all been vetted, sort of blessed by the right SMEs across the organization to make sure that this information is accurate. The market opportunity, profile of target customers, and so on. So if you had one place to go right now today to get more information on this, I would strongly advocate that you go to the sales intranet and use this sales playbook. Another reason why I'm an advocate of this approach is it's very, very easy for us to update as we learn more, as we provide more resources, as we improve our messaging and go to market around this solution. This resource can be very quickly updated because it all lives online, right? And we'll make sure that the digital versions of the service briefs and things like that are all updated as well and linked to within this document. So again, the sales playbook is a great, just all-encompassing resource for you guys. The next bit that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, but just in case, is we have two really strong publicly facing case studies on our website today. I'm a huge fan of this Mount San Jacinto case study because it has great client quotes peppered in, and it also has this video here where Brian at Mount San Jacinto himself articulates the value of the solution that we delivered for them in a video format, in his own words, which I personally think goes a hell of a longer way than we could ever do on the marketing side, right? So I think there's a lot of value there. If you just want to quickly send something over to your client, this would be a great resource to send over. We also have the Task Us. We are not using Task Us name publicly on the website based on sort of their requirements, but this does a great job of that use case that we delivered for them through digital workspaces. The next bit is built out a website landing page. So as a reminder, we have a hub on intervision.com now that talks about our AWS capabilities. Right now, you'll see I'm keeping this labeled as AWS End User Computing until that transition at AWS is finalized to digital workplaces. Once that transition is finalized and they've changed the branding on that, I'll be sure to switch things over on the website. But this page does a great job of sort of summarizing the solution, talking about the benefits, linking out to some other relevant resources and the case studies and so on. This is now live on the website. It has been now for a few months actually as part of our end user computing competency that we're going after with AWS. We also have a guide that's available. This is more of a end user type guide. So this is a great resource that you could send along to a client or prospect that really talks about embracing the new normal, right? So not only the short-term impact of the remote workforce requirements, but what can an organization do to optimize and improve the user experience long-term? This is a guide that Daniel put together with the help of many SMBs across the organization that you can share with your clients. We have the webinars. Those are all linked on intervision.com. You have direct access to those on the on-demand format. This one here is the AppStream case study with Brian that you could share or review just to get a better understanding of how we deliver that solution, and again hear a little bit more perspective from the client directly. And then I think maybe as importantly as any of the pre-sales materials and the marketing materials that have been put together, there are template statements of work with level of effort and methodology built in that have been developed on the delivery side as well. So, we can have some confidence that not only hopefully do you feel like the messaging is tighter, your understanding of the solution is hopefully a little stronger today, but also our ability to deliver on this is tighter than it was before because we have that alignment across the pre-sales and delivery teams to really ensure that we're equipped to deliver this with that repeatable process and repeatable documentation that will greatly speed up the delivery of these solutions. So I think that pretty much covers it in terms of the presentation component of this conversation here today. I'd like to open it up to additional comments that John might have, or Kevin Van Monfrance, or Kevin Barker, really anyone who helped us put together this material. But opening it up to the team here now to answer any questions you might have. I'm probably going to tap on some of the subject matter experts if they're technical questions, but wanted to open up the discussion to see if there's anything we can talk through that will help.
Hey, Chris, just from a pre-sales perspective, I will mention that we now have quite a few pre-sales engineers besides the classic Jacob and John. We always think of them for cloud that can work and demo these solutions. Myself, Truck Bo, Dave Mangelsdorf, all have built-up demo systems and are available to show this off.
That's really good to know, and thank you. Ron, could you please connect with him and make sure that in the playbook, the SMEs, they get added as people who can run a demo? I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, there's a list of SMEs at the end, and I'll make sure that Kevin, I'll touch bases with you and make sure that list is up to date.
Absolutely.
I know that's one thing we could have done a little better with the rollout of AMS is really give a robust list of the SMEs. So I want to make sure that we're responsive to that and do a better job here. And thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Hey, Chris, this is Steve Boss. One thing that's not clear to me, maybe it's clear to everyone else on this call, but the financial side. So when the customer buys this solution from us, what money are they giving to us? What money are they giving to AWS? What specifically are they buying? That the financial side of it isn't so clear to me. Is there some document I could review on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. John, do you think you're the most apt to speak to that? I think we could probably also get this documented a little bit better in the sales playbook.
Yeah, hey Steve. Good question. This is, it's professional services engagement. So we end up getting paid for that. And then, ongoing, they then have AWS service usage, right? Which, for Workspaces, and AppStream, can be quite considerable because, with Taskus, I think we brought up 3,000 workspaces. So it's both, a pretty small professional service engagement and then ongoing AWS service spend. One of the things, I mean, that it can lead to, though, on the professional service side is other engagements, right, around, either more cloud work or networking and that type of thing. So, or security.
Yeah, okay. And so we have to be in the right position to monetize that AWS spend in general, right? Because I run into these not specifically with workspaces, but
Yeah,
more the line. A lot of the clients I work with are kind of in deep with someone else, and it's not so easy to glom onto any of their AWS spend associated with something we're introducing to them. Is that
yeah.
the
I
case
think
here?
one of the constraints on the promo we're doing is that we are the account holder. So yeah, good point.
Oh, okay, got it. Same kind of deal here. Okay, got it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thanks, guys. This is
Yeah.
really, really good stuff.
So another way to maybe phrase this is, what are we missing, guys? Like, what can we go back and put together that would help with confidence or additional training or additional support on this? Hopefully you can see there's a lot of pieces that have come together here to get that alignment across, multiple teams here in the organization. But are there other pieces that you feel like? I think that piece around the what are they buying and how is a good one for sure.
So, Chris, one of the things that for people who want to know more, getting a demo with one of our pre-sales guys might be worthwhile, so you can actually see it, right?
I'm wondering if we could just book that, John, for the sales team. Just have a demo.
Mm-hmm.
Just book it at a time that's convenient for the team, and just for those of you who want to participate, you can see an active demo of this, and we can roll through it. I think that to me that just makes sense, right? So I'll put that on my task of list to dos here is to maybe get a demo scheduled for those of you who want to see sort of how this solution works firsthand.
Hey, Chris, I was going to put this in chat, but if I could ask verbally be better. You mentioned that if your customers are super cloud first, super savvy, they may not want your help with this. That's a good piece of information. Like, who does it not apply to? Who might not want us to take us up on this? But following up on Steve's comment about the dependency for this to be a profitable enterprise for us, partially being able to build the AWS portion of it. If we know that that's not going to be possible, like if we know that the customer is a Fortune 100 company and they're not billing through partners, is it worth pursuing this type of business if it's really just a 50-hour deployment for the professional services or for just the professional services? Is there money in this for the sales team?
So I'll give you my perspective, Sam, on this, and I'd love to hear, John, your perspective on this. So one of the things that was part of the initiative for Cloud Plays is putting our best foot forward in the cloud. in terms of demonstrating our capabilities in a very real way, in a way that the client can see, okay, these guys know what they're doing. They've done this before. The reason why I say that is I would argue that yes, it would be something you would want to have that conversation around, only because it allows us to get in there, demonstrate our capabilities, and open up the conversation for other capabilities we have within cloud, right? Because we're really putting our best foot forward with this very prescriptive, efficient approach and delivery that can open up the cloud conversation a little bit wider. So for the immediate initial piece, maybe not, but there are some of these projects that have become very large, I know as well. But as a way, if you look back to that core piece that we were trying to accomplish with the cloud plays, it's giving you guys a tip of the spear, something you could have confidence in that we have the capability to deliver very effectively, and demonstrate sort of our capabilities within AWS and the cloud. John, do you have thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a good question, Sam, and you may be entirely right. In a particular client, they may be completely capable of doing this. But one example, when Tom Holt and I spoke to the lead infrastructure person at FRB about this, and FRB has their own cloud team, but the infrastructure team was interested because potentially AppStream gave them the ability to retain apps running in their existing data center while giving cloud access, right? So, and quickly. So, obviously inside of that organization, there are politics and sort of competitiveness and, not necessarily the best functioning overall organization, but they were actually pretty interested in this, and it was pretty much what Chris said. It was another validation of, wow, you guys really understand. We're doing networking and security and other things for them in their rollout of their regional banks. I can't think of the name of it, but this sort of added to that credibility with our particular client internally. So, AppStream is really a form of potentially migration, right? Because you can provide cloud-based access to on-prem, to apps that are still on-prem for a client very quickly, and then later talk about how to migrate them. So it's sort of another arrow in your quiver, essentially, I think.
So in terms of that, and that makes sense. So in terms of that FRB example, is it basically, because I know that they use another partner for their actual cloud services.
Mm-hmm.
So what would that play look like for those guys outside of just raising our cachet and our
it would be bringing up. It would be bringing up some of the legacy apps, right? Quickly using
service.
AppStream.
Yeah, and
right?
and I think there too, we are demonstrating value to the AWS team by expanding the portfolio of potential solutions. So they have reached out to Cynthia and I to basically subcontract us through the migration assurance program, MAP, and then they want to pay us to actually start to do some of that migration. And Russell can
interesting.
Away from the incumbent partner who was doing more of the readiness assessment work, not the actual migration work. This has been a great bridge into that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the way I would, and I've seen this at quite a number of organizations, they get a cloud team together. The cloud team gets very enamored with all the bright, shiny objects in the cloud, but gets nothing done. And that may not, that may be overstating it, and then we come in with a practical sort of lower tech to some degree solution like this and show that, hey, you can get access up to your apps, very quickly. And in certain situations like this one, that really resonates, right? So,
yeah, I'll give you another example. It's not a win, and it wasn't an olive branch to come in, but Jim Doherty has been working on Robert Half to get in there with our cloud services. Turns out they have a whole center of excellence themselves around cloud service delivery. But dig a little bit deeper, and we had been pitching workspaces when the Taskus deal broke. We had a little bit of, talking points to send to Grimsey, and he didn't tell us they were having problems. We actually heard it from the AWS rep that, yeah, they did indeed have a problem deploying workspaces. That they had only been able to deploy like one user in a dev type environment, and it wasn't stable. So, that's pretty big game hunting. That's, 20,000+ end user remote license kind of stuff. But, it didn't result in a win, but it does mean that we have, at least some capability to go talk to a client that's Fortune 500.
Thanks, Tom. I think that FRB story specifically is just a great example of how this cloud play approach can work, right, in the market in terms of just demonstrating that capability up front, building some confidence, and then potentially opening up the conversation to things that are much larger. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Chris, this is Jim. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So I guess one thing that would help is sort of understanding the competitive landscape. Like, what are the other options, right? Like, how does this compare and contrast to a customer that may be using VDI in the VMware cloud with Amazon? Customers that have maybe just refreshed their Pulse Secure environment, and they're using client-based VPN to access services in the data center, but maybe want to peel off a subset of that environment to digital workspaces. What would that subset look like? Is it just desktop users in finance, accounting, and sales administration versus engineering? And if it is engineering, right, how does AppStream, play into that, so we can kind of get sort of deeper into those, technical conversations on, why digital workspaces, right? And then I guess most of our customers, as you know, a lot of them are do-it-yourself on-prem that are looking at long-term cloud strategies. And if there's a way that we can use this as as an anchor to say, hey, instead of doing VDI internally, right, this is the playbook, and this is sort of the financial model around that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me.
Did I miss that? And did I miss that in your presentation? I might have,
No, there's
some of the.
You're hitting on an interesting topic, and I know that Kevin Barker and Paul Clement and some others have been doing some interesting sort of TCO analysis around comparing workspaces to on-prem VDI, and showing some pretty compelling numbers where it's just massively less expensive. I don't know that what they produced, it was pretty cool, but I'm not sure it's completely ready for pick it up and hand it out to everybody on this call. But certainly I would say that Jim, that might be worth getting another session. Maybe it's with the demo. If Kevin or somebody gives the demo, you can get into that whole sort of VDI TCO conversation, and they can walk you through
I like that idea, John. I think that's a big one, right? To be able to talk even in some detail about that would be very helpful.
I mean, to me, the numbers were jaw-dropping in that particular scenario on how much money could be saved with workspaces. When you consider the amount, you have to start to consider the amount of time that for the care and feeding of a traditional VDI solution, the people you've got to have to maintain it, to update things and all of that. And you start to look at, well, you can completely use automation in the cloud around that. All the numbers then are really, pretty strong for going with a cloud-based, VDI solution, which is what Workspaces is.
Yeah, and John, I'll just layer on top of that from a technical perspective, because that was one of the questions raised about, for example, what if they're getting ready to renew Pulse Secure, especially app spaces. This is a very different way of presenting applications for delivery to the consumer. It's far simpler. It's simpler to set up. It's simpler to maintain. It's less costly. It eliminates the need for VPNs. And so you don't go in trying to tell somebody, hey, dump your existing VDI infrastructure. You've got to expand this you've got to deliver more applications. This is a way to do this far more cost effectively and easily. And you may not have the internal resources because you haven't done this. So we'll handle it for you. And then, yes, we are creating these cost models that say, if you really want to take the plunge, we can show you how long term this will eliminate your VDI infrastructure.
Thanks, Kevin. So, like I said, maybe that would make sense to do the demo and have you kind of walk through that use case and the TCO around it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is Dave in St. Louis. Sandy's got a customer 1 p.m. today that we're going to be reviewing WorkSpaces, AppStream, and on-prem VDI with Horizon View today. And we don't know their use cases yet and even what they're trying to accomplish, but at some point, I imagine they're going to want to go to a TCO. So anything that the team has that can follow on with that would probably be very helpful. I know just from a licensing standpoint, Horizon View can get very expensive. So
yeah, they've got a pretty sophisticated set of spreadsheets they built up. It may not directly apply to your client, but sort of the approach and the factors that they considered, I think, you could probably tailor pretty quickly to have something that's pretty compelling.
yeah, that'd be really helpful because even if I always look at those things, even if we don't have them exactly right, it shows a lot of thought leadership to just be.
That's what impressed me when I saw it. I was like, did we come up with this? Holy shit.
Yeah, we've actually thought of.
Mike had a couple questions. Mike Kinney, one about this AWS Amazon AppStream 2.0 partners listing. Mike Mosier, I don't know if you're on or free, but after we achieve the end user computing competency, will we be added to that listing?
Yeah, we will be added on. So if you go to the competency listing, we will be added on to that, and we would be added on as an end user partner. Along with
what about
there.
the AppStream 2.0 site that Mike sent out in the chat there, Mike?
Let me take a look.
Yeah, I saw that. I went to that, and that's if I'm a customer or someone looking to deploy AppStream, that's the first place I would go. And there's like 8 companies listed there, and I noticed we weren't on it. So I'm just like, that would be my first, thing I'd have to overcome is like, okay, you're so great with deploying AppStream, Mike. Why are you guys not even listed on the site? These guys are all listed on the site. I'm going to go with one of those guys.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. And I don't have the answer for you. My gut would tell me I can probably get us up on there. This might have something to do with the solution space, which is another program AWS has that we would qualify for once we get the competency. Thanks for pointing that out, and thanks for sharing the link. I'll chase this down.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't hear, we switched our partner with AWS on the commercial side, and that manager only manages, 3 other accounts, Mike? And so we have a really direct line of access to AWS, even more so than we did previously.
Yep. We're getting a lot more attention on the commercial side to come up to par with our private sector. So our previous partner manager we were one of 15 of the accounts she oversaw, and now we're one of 3 with the new person. So we should get a lot more higher touch treatment going forward.
So I've got some takeaways here from the conversation today, guys, to get a demo scheduled, to dig deeper into those versus use cases against traditional VDI in terms of the cost savings, complexity savings. I think there's a lot of great work that's already been done there that wouldn't be hopefully too difficult to mine. But definitely open to feedback as you guys have additional time to process things and get, questions you might have. I probably can't answer them all directly, but I can certainly help facilitate getting the answers to you.
So Chris, I would add to that, this is Jim again, are there like applications where AppStream is a no-go for, right? Or there are open API applications that they might have that the the users are accessing on their desktops today that will not perform very well with AppStream? And then I guess conversely is, or, you know, kind of the, you know, where is the low hanging fruit around that, right? Is it for digital workspaces for what types of user profile? If we could have that, you know, I think that would sort of help us, you know, prospect a little easier on, you know, with confidence, knowing exactly what workloads, what profile of an end user is the best fit for this. And then, you know, back to the earlier conversations that Kevin Barker alluded to, right? So let's just say we have a customer who just invested $500,000 with Palo Alto Global Protect for all their end user VPN. You know, how do we help them monetize that investment with workspaces, as opposed to having them say, oh, we're already covered, right? We just covered all of our workspaces from a security perspective and from a you know, on-prem perspective. You know, how do we continue that conversation? Because if you looked at the social media wire, all the vendors that are doing VPN, whether it's, you know, PAN, Cisco, and Connect, you know, Pulse Secure, they're all on fire. So they're doing really well right now during this pandemic. So customers have made big investments with those vendors. Pick your logo here. And how do we, you know, extend this service offering to customers that already made significant, you know, investments in their infrastructure and VPN? How do we peel off some of these workspaces to at least maybe get, you know, get an anchor going?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I'm taking some notes. Sorry, I just wanted to.
Yeah, as far as what won't run, yeah, and what are the sort of best targets, I think that's something we should pull together. Yeah, because I could try and answer that and probably will get 10% of it off the top of my head. So it's probably something, Chris, where we should get our techies involved to answer that more precisely. You know, because you know, AppStream, anything you can get running in a browser, you can get to with AppStream. But I know with Mount San Jacinto, which was one of our use cases here, they had 5 apps that they wanted to get to. 4 of them were very easy. Then they had some 1990s power builder custom something or other that they had to make a couple of changes to get it to work within AppStream. So that took longer. So I don't know exactly what the boundaries are there. You were talking about APIs. Yeah, there may be something around that. And there's, you know, it's probably similar with workspaces, that it runs best for certain types of apps and, you know, not as well for others, but we can pull that information together.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much. I know, you know, that being close to the end of the quarter, it's incredibly busy for you guys. I hope this information was beneficial for you. I'll be sending out some follow-on materials, and I've got a list of to-dos to be working on as well. So again, thank you guys for the time, and we really appreciate it and look forward to launching some more plays with this team. Take care.